Well, here we are. It is Friday. What's the day? July 10th, 2026. I hope everybody had a wonderful 4th of July weekend. We did. We had people over. We cooked. We had a cookout in the yard. It was very hot until the clouds rolled in, and we got a very nice cooling thunderstorm or a rainstorm anyway. Not much thunder, but it was very nice, and we had a great time. We had friends over. We had a friend staying with us, and I hope all of you enjoyed it as well. And you had some good fireworks and all that wonderful stuff. So there it is. And now what's going on? There's a lot of stuff going on this week, and there was a very good sale. And we're going to go through some of the results. Caza Sikes had their sale of all that Ming porcelain, and it did extremely well. What a sale! What an auction! I think they should be very, very pleased. And we're going to go through some of the price results there. We're going to talk about some other results down at Brunks and a couple of other things that are coming up. Not many new auctions have appeared in the last few days, but we're waiting. When they come, we'll let you know. But right now, it's quiet. But overall, the auction market looks pretty healthy, I have to say. I'm very, very pleased with all that's going on in the world. And one of the things I want to get into right away, and I'm wondering if any of you noticed this, that if you go to LiveAuctioneers and you go to the landing page of a dealer, and I want you to tell me if this is happening to you, because it seems like LiveAuctioneers has made a rather significant change in their site, or something's wrong with it. But if you pick out an auction house and you go to their page where their auctions are listed, like this is the Caza Sikes page, and if you try to scroll down the page to see past sales, it won't let you. It's blocked. So for the time being, if there's anything in an auction that you want to keep track of, don't rely on being able to get back to the auction that sold afterwards, unless you go to the auction house's own website or you bookmark all the pieces. And you're not limited on how many images you can bookmark on your watch list. So if you're, for the time being, if you've got anything on there and you're going to want to know what it brought, bookmark it so you can find it there on past auctions on your own account, because right now you can't do it. And I've tried it with a bunch of different auction houses that are on here. I tried it with Brunks. Here's this is the sale that's coming up at Akiba down in Florida, and they've got a bunch of sales up. And as soon as you scroll down past their upcoming sales, you can't get to their past sales. And it's a very strange thing. I may try to reach LiveAuctioneers next week if this continues. I don't know. Maybe it's just a temporary glitch in their site. If anybody from LiveAuctioneers is watching, maybe you could look into this because this shouldn't be happening. So for now, bookmark everything, and then you can keep track of it. Enough of that. Now, every once in a while, we see a new type of fake come onto the market, and there's a new one. And this is something I want you to pay close attention to. And it's not. I'm not blaming the auction houses. These are really good copies. All right, this carving it's listed as an 18th or 19th century Chinese carved gilt and stone monk. And it is very big. It's 15 inches tall. This is coming up at McGinnis's in New Hampshire, and I let them know that it's not right. But this is being offered as an 18th or 19th century piece. It is very convincing looking in many ways, but I thought there was something maybe a little off with it. The base threw me a bit the way it's done here, and I was looking at it the other day and I bookmarked it and did some digging. I couldn't find any other examples that have appeared in auctions anywhere prior to about a year ago. And I looked through a lot of past auction results and couldn't find anything. And then this morning, I was looking online for things to talk about today. Maybe some new auctions that popped up. And bingo, I found two more that have appeared. Now, this sale at McGinnis's is on the 31st of July. For the 31st of July, these two are coming up at Raphael Osona down on Nantucket. And these are coming up on the 1st of August. So they're coming up a day apart, basically. And these are estimated as 19th century with an estimate of $1,500 to $2,500 with a starting price of $1,000. And this single one is coming up with a $1,000 to $3,000 estimate with a starting price of $500. And I'm not going to make a prediction, but I'm going to bet it's the same consignor in both auction houses. To both auction houses. Both of these auction houses have good reputations. Raphael Osana's been around forever. He's a very straight up guy. And I think that they're probably convincing enough to get the auction house to accept them because they don't specialize in Chinese art. And I think that's what's happening. That appears to be what's happening. That somebody brought them in. They look good enough to include. Maybe gave them a story to go along with it, and that's what they're doing. And the one at John McGinnis's is 15 inches tall, and these are both 16 inches tall. So they're the same size, unbelievably similar, virtually identical in style and execution and so forth. So just be very careful. If you've got them on a watch list, don't. Right now, the one at Raphael's only has 5 people watching it, and I'm one of them. And the McGinnis sale has 4. So I think people have spotted that there's something wrong with them, because obviously if this was an 18th century stone carving gilded, by now it would have probably 20 to 30 people watching it. But just in case you come across these, be very, very careful, because these are starting to come into the market. We've seen it happen with Sung Guanwares over the years. I remember when the flood of those came in, and then of course all the Ming copies that came in, and then of course there's the legendary flood of Tang copies that came in about 20 years ago and pretty much killed that market completely 30 years ago. And then all the fakes of bronzes that have appeared. There was a number of them that turned up, very similar bronzes that appeared not only in Europe but in the U.S. Ming bronzes being copied. So just be really, really careful. I'll just leave it there. And I did send Dan up at McGinnis's an email this morning, telling him that this is a very good reproduction, and this is not in any way an attack on these 2 auction houses. They're not dishonest people. It's just that these copies are good enough to get by. Some people have been in the antique business for a very long time, so be extremely careful. All right, other things that are going on. This popped up. This is coming up also at Brunks. Brunks seems to be pretty busy these days. On July 30th, very nice grouping of 4 Chinese export terrines and a platter. This is a pretty good looking lot. I'm sure there's some imperfections. I haven't seen a condition report on them yet, but they're awfully nice looking. This one on the right here is based on a silver form, European silver form, with this Rococo handle on it, and there's leaf handles on the ends. Very nice. This is a nice lot. If you're a Chinese export buyer, or you want to buy some beautiful blue and white to have for the holidays to have with your guests and use as service pieces, this is a great set. They're all a late 18th, early 19th century. The estimate is just $400 to $600 for the whole lot, with a $200 starting price. Right now, there's 7 people watching it. The sale is on July 30th at Brunks. It's online right now. You might want to check that out. And then over to here is something that is coming up at Raphael Asana's down on August 1st that I liked a great deal, and this is a nice thing. This is a China trade trunk. It is not a table box. When I first saw it, I thought it was one of these nice sort of tabletop boxes, these large letter boxes, that sort of thing. This is a trunk, and of course, they made a lot of trunks during the China trade period, but this one is unbelievably well carved. In the early 20th century, they turned out some carved trunks that are rather unfortunate in their execution, aren't particularly good looking. This is a very, very attractively carved, deeply carved wooden trunk with brass corners and all that stuff, a nice big lock on it. It's probably late Qing to early Republic from what I'm seeing, but it's wonderfully carved, and the top of it is pretty magnificent. Wait till we get around to it. There it is. This is the top of it. What a beautiful thing. And this is about exactly the right size for a coffee table. And what you could do with these very easily is take this thing, measure it, go to your local glass shop and have them cut a nice piece of tempered glass that's about, half an inch thick for it. Put a couple of little small black rubber tabs, little wafers on each corner, and you could use this would make a fantastic coffee table. It really, really would, or a center table in a room, and you have this beautiful carving, and you could put drinks on it and use it, make the furniture functional without doing any damage to it. And you just have a glass top on it. You don't have to worry about it. It's a beautiful thing. It's estimated at $1,000 to $1,250 with a $500 opening bid. I think it's worth every penny. It's a good sized trunk. It measures 17 by 42 by 24 inches. So it's pretty much a full size trunk. And wonderfully carved. You just give it a little tongue oil once in a while, or lemon oil, and just let it be. It'll be very happy. But that's a beautiful thing. The shipping on it's going to be a little high off of Nantucket, but I think it's worth it. It's one of the best ones I've seen in years. It's a beautiful example. And then over to this. This was a result from Brunks. We talked about this desk last week. I thought it was a wonderful federal period desk, mid-Atlantic area. And these area desks, slant-lid desks have been hard to sell, and roll-top desks have been hard to sell now for about 30 years because people don't know what to do with them. They're not very creative, I guess. But this is a beautiful piece of furniture. Somebody got a bargain on this. This was $850 plus the premium, or around $1,000 for this piece of furniture. Is a spectacularly beautiful piece of furniture. And I suspect that back in the 90s or whenever, if this desk had come up for sale in the 1990s, it would have sold easily for $5,000 to $8,000 or $10,000 easily. And right now, the furniture market is still catching up, though we have seen some great results. Brunks had that sale a couple of weeks ago, and some of the furniture in there brought fantastic numbers. And but there's still some laggards in the market. And if you like this kind of furniture, you've been putting off buying it, I would suggest you buy some, because I think eventually, in the next couple of years, American furniture is going to get pretty expensive again. But this was a very, very nice piece of furniture. I loved it. And $850, you couldn't buy the drawers for that today. If you had somebody make this desk for you, it would cost you, I don't know what, $15,000, $20,000, something like that. So it was a great buy for somebody, absolutely great. And then over here, the Blue John lamps. I wanted to bring these up again to give you some idea. Now these Blue John was that stone that they used to mine in England that became basically extinct. There are no more Blue John mines that I'm aware of anywhere in the world, none in England. And it was such a popular rock when they got it, when they discovered it, they mined the heck out of it. And this is two very good examples. These look to be 18th century, and they are absolute wrecks. The bases are broken on them. They're missing the top. They've got cracks. They are absolutely in horrible condition. But the stone is so rare. The stone is so rare and beautiful. I mean, look at that chunk that's out of it. It's just the top is missing. You know, if you found these in a garage, you might not even think you'd want to take them. Anyway, they were estimated at a very low $500 to $700, and as I said, I bet they do pretty well. And they ended up going for about $4,000 in deplorable condition and basically unrestorable, because you can't go out and get. You're going to have to get somebody who knows how to do stone restoration and try to match the color up as best they can, because you can't buy Blue John anywhere to make repairs from, or you can't buy a chunk of it and slice it off and fit it in and do a nice neat job of it. You have to use something else. And despite all of those obstacles, and the fact that these things are as heavy as bricks to move, how tall are they? They're probably not really big, 8.5 inches tall, but they're as heavy as cement. They're very heavy to ship. Somebody paid $4,000 for it, and there were underbidders, and there were 44 people watching it. So as I mentioned a couple of weeks ago, keep your eye out for this stuff. It does turn up, and a lot of people don't know anything about it. This is the kind of thing you could find in a small antique shop and maybe in a rural area where they don't see a lot of this stuff, or have never seen it before, and they're going to put it out as quartz or some other type of stone. You could find yourself, if these were perfect, they would have probably sold for $30,000 or $40,000 at least. And they're only 8 inches tall. They're extremely rare. So put that in your back pocket the next time you're out walking around looking at things. All right, now, this other sales. This was also at Brunks. These were those Empress Dowager sleeve vases. And as we talked about a couple of weeks ago, these have done very well in recent years. There was a sale. There's been a couple of sales for quite a few of these. They did just great. These did fine. They were only estimated at $1,000 to $2,000, and we knew that would get blown out. And they ended up going for basically about $10,500 with the buyer's premium, but very attractive. And these were fairly rare forms. These were pretty rare forms. So good on them for that. And then there was the wall pockets. I thought these were great. Republic period for sure. $800 to $900 estimates, and they went over the estimate. They did pretty well. They ended up going for about $1,700 for the pair. And I don't think that was anywhere close to an overpayment. I thought these might do a good bit better than maybe $3,000 or $4,000. So I think this was to me, these look like a great buy. But these pieces here, when they have these sort of big overblown pieces, we've seen them with the bats on the rims, those big red bats. They put them on the shoulders of vases. Those are always, nearly always Republic pieces. and I believe these were as well, but very fine quality and very unusual. And that, as we've said so many times, if you can't find a comp for it, and you like something, you might get yourself a great buy because other people don't know how much to bid on it, because they're not really collectors. They're looking for arbitrage. They're looking for a difference between selling price and what the market will pay somewhere else for it. And if you can't find that spread, people often won't bid at all. It gives a great opening to people who are really collectors. They buy with their gut, and always buy with your gut. Don't ever buy anything just because, unless you're a dealer. If you're a dealer, then yeah, okay, fine. You see something for $1,000 and you can sell it for $5, you're going to buy it and sell it. But in general, if you're collecting, only buy what you love, and it's going to cost you what it costs you. But this I still think was a very lovely pair of pockets and unusual. And then there was the hawk. Now these falcons rather, have turned up. These are China trade. They're rather unusual. The Japanese also made some that were somewhat similar to these, but not quite the same. And this particular form of this falcon with the wing up on one side, done in this style, have turned up at other auction houses in the past, and they brought $3,000 to $5,000 most of the time. This one went for a little under that, about 24 or 2,600 with the prize premium, which was okay. It was a bit of a bargain, but an awfully nice piece of pottery. There it is. And as I said, you'll find these, if you throw this in Google Lens, I bet you find one or two of them out there that have sold. But very, very nicely done. Late Qing, but beautifully done. All right. Now, what else happened? The plates with the gold rims on them. I had looked at these a couple of weeks ago, and I said, well, there's a very, very nice Femi-Ver Kung Shi period charger, and next to it's a very, very nice Japanese one. And they were both listed as Chinese. I did email Brunks and tell them that the Asian platters, one is Chinese and one is Japanese, so that somebody who buys Japanese could get a shot at buying them. At any rate, they did pretty well. Let's see, how big were these? These were fairly large, including the frames. They were about 24 inches. They told me the plates were about 20 inches apiece. So these are pretty good sized plates. These are big plates. And I'd remove the woodwork off of them immediately, because I just think it's a bit over the top and tasteless, but that's just me. Any rate, they sold for $28 plus the premium, or about $3,500, or roughly $1,700 a plate, which is in line with their values, I think. I think they're both equally attractive. One is Chinese, one is Japanese, and they would look fine on a wall together. It'd be a nice contrast. I think they're beautiful. And then other things at Brunks was this set of this Federal drawer with the flame veneer down the front. These are very nice Federal. Probably they look to be Boston area chests, New England chests, judging by the way the feet are done on it and so forth. But very, very fine flame mahogany veneering on the front. This was only estimated $800 to $1,200. Where did they have to say? They said they thought they might be Pennsylvania. I think they might be. Yeah, it could be, but they could also be from New England in this style with those feet. But anyway, they were estimated 8 to 12. It ended up selling for $4,250 plus premium, about $5,300. So that was a good result. That was a perfectly good result for that. So again, a little life in the old girl yet on the American furniture scene. And I think you're going to see it, as I said in the past, you're going to see it come around, which bodes very well for those of you that buy, that are interested in China trade things. Buy it now, because once American furniture and European furniture and things start to get some traction again in the art world, when people get sick of IKEA and factory furniture that you can throw away in 20 years, and they start buying good furniture, not rubbish, they're going to want good accessories to go with them. And then you're going to again see probably export wares and the things that were made to go on top of these pieces of furniture originally during the 18th and 19th century become unbuyable, because that's where we were. I was looking at a vase this week that the woman's mother paid about $3,000 or $2,900 for it back in the 90s, and today it's worth its value is in the hundreds rather than the thousands. So it shows you how strong that American China trade market can get. Once the things that go with them go up in value, because it's all tied together. It's not just Chinese is Chinese, Japanese. It's what that market is, and that market is tied to the American decorative and European decorative art market. All right, and now this was a great buy. This was this Brunks also? Yeah, this was Brunks. This may have been the buy of the week. and I don't know everybody. It was 11 pieces of export wares, and they are a mix of Chinese and Japanese. They didn't really say; they just said 19th century, and I think it was because they couldn't probably tell which ones were Chinese and which were Japanese. But if you pull these in, an Edo period Amari charger here, a Chinese Kangxi period plate there, another Japanese Amari piece over here. You've got a Chinese Amari spittoon with handle over here, a mug, a Japanese square vase. You've got this little water dropper over here that appears to be probably that looks to be Chinese, and then you have the Japanese Amari barber bowl from the 18th century, and you have a salt here, and you got another one of these spittoons and so forth. This is a good lot. And the plate was what was the size of the biggest thing? Largest plate was 12 and a half inches. So that would be the one in the middle. So this was a really good lot. And the whole lot went for $400 plus premium, or around $520 for all of it. All right. So this is a lot a dealer will make money with. I was stunned at that result. And it may be, part of it may be that you were mixing Japanese with Chinese. So the only people really interested in this would be a Chinese porcelain dealer, because people who collect Chinese only want Chinese, and people who collect Japanese don't want Chinese in most cases. And here you have a pretty good mix of both. And those people are going to say, well, I don't want to buy all the Japanese stuff because I buy Chinese, and Chinese guys are going to say, I don't want the Japanese stuff. So they all laid off of it, and it went right through the middle. And I'm going to bet it got bought by a dealer or somebody who's a very smart collector who's interested in both categories. But it was sort of an interesting result, but a great bargain. That was a terrific buy. All right. And then over to the birds, the multicolored parrots. I thought these were great. We talked about them a couple of weeks ago. I just thought they were so interesting and unusual. They absolutely have age to them, but very nicely colored. Beautiful, beautiful complementary colors, soft palette enamels, beautiful greens and blues and yellows and so forth. Nice translucent yellow in here. Very unusual coloring. And I think the price was perfectly reasonable. $2,200 for the pair plus the premium, or around $3,000 all said and done. And they are 8 inches tall, and they were estimated very low. They had a very, very modest estimate, just $400 to $600. And I know a lot. I heard from a couple of people about them, and they said that estimate's way off, and I agreed it was. But the market finds the value, and this again, once again, and when we get to the Sikes sale, you're going to see that estimates mean nothing. Nobody cares about estimates if they've been collecting or dealing for any length of time. People know what things are worth most of the time, most pieces, unless it's very unusual, like those wall pockets where you can't find a comp for them. But in those cases, you have to fly by the seat of your pants a little bit. But that's perfectly fine too, because sometimes you end up with the best things just because you bought it with your gut and not based on numbers and with your accounting hat on. That's no way to collect. But these were very, very attractive, and if you bought them, be thrilled. I don't think you overpaid for them. With the premium, they came in at about $3,000 or $1,500 a piece. And then there was this nice bronze that we mentioned that was over at the Oriental Art Auction over in the Netherlands. That sale, it didn't do particularly well overall. I have to say, they had a lot of buy-ins over there, and I think it's maybe I don't know why. Maybe that market, they're out over their skis a little bit over there. They had a bunch of very nice Turkoman bags, and they didn't seem to do very well. And maybe that's because they're not known for selling them. I'm not sure what happened, but the sale seemed a little soft. But this did fine. It was estimated at 800 to 1,100 euros, and it ended up going for 1,500 euros, or about $1,700 plus the premium, so around $2,400 for this incense burner. But I thought this was a wonderful incense burner, clearly out of an estate or a collection or something. Where, it's not been meticulously cleaned and handled by any dealer, unless the dealer bought it out of an estate and just consigned it right away, because it's got that lots of house dirt on it. Lots of grunge. And if you bought this, leave it alone. Wipe it around wipe it down gently with a damp rag to get the dust off of it, but no soap, don't take any toothbrushes to it and clean out the cracks. You ruin it. But it's a nice thing. That was a very, very nicely cast, a burner. And it had its original finial on it on top of it, which is rather unusual Often the finials get knocked off. All right, now over to the Caza Sikes sale. Hang on here. I had to go to their site because I couldn't pull up all of the results over in LiveAuctioneers because that scrolling issue I was talking about at the beginning of the video. But here you have the sale, and we're going to hop back to the to page 1, and you're going to see some very nice results. And just to get into it, I'll just go through some of the ones, some of the lots we talked about before the auction did just fine also. And these prices on their site do not include the buyer's premium, as far as I know. This is just the hammer price. So in this case, you had these jarlets that we talked about. And I think the buyer's premium there is 25%. So do your own calculation, I guess. And this lot was estimated. They just put low estimates on things because they know the viewers are going to know what they're worth. And as we've seen in the past with these sales of blue and white, they put a lot of the estimates in the $200 to $300 range, $300 to $500, maybe a couple at $8 to $12, and that's it. They don't push the estimate angle at all. These were estimated at $200 to $300. This was a nice grouping of jarlets. Ranging from the Yuan to the Ming Dynasty, very, very attractive group, and they did really well. Brought $2,600 plus the premium, so you're up around $3,200 for that lot right there. But beautiful quality, wonderful things. And then there was this rather nice a planter we talked about. It's a small planter. I thought it was great. There were 2 of them in the sale. One of them had a lot of calligraphy on it on one side, and it actually brought a little bit more than this one. This was estimated at $100 to $150. Ended up going for around, well, it went $650 plus premium, or around $750, $800 for it. But very, very nice looking thing. I like this a lot. But it's an unusual form. It's got those wave patterns that you often see on Juan Lee pieces on the big chargers going through the middles. I mentioned that last week, but I just wanted to remind everybody, this is a pattern that you do see and around the rim. Very attractive. It did fine. And then as we move along, the prices are going to start to go up here a little bit. There was this very attractive. I thought this was nice because I thought it was so beautifully potted. This bell-shaped bowl with this vegetable, these leaves and vines coming off of it in the middle. But I thought the whole thing with the shape and the way the plant was done was visually very, very attractive. And these are not imperial wares. These are Mingyao. They're just the Mingyao wares. They're just, everyday wares for the Chinese population that were produced in Jingdezhen. 5 inches in diameter, had a hairline crack in the rim, and it sold for $700 plus premium, or around $850 or so. And then over to this, the Horseman on Rider bowls. I just like these. Many of you that like Ming wares have seen this pattern before. There was another group in this sale. I think there were 4 or 5 of them. I didn't see what they brought, but I remember we looked at these. I think this is it's just a charming provincial bowl with a horse and riders. And in the end, they did fine. They ended up going for about a little over $500 with the premium, or about $250 a bowl, which is right in the range they've typically been bringing these days. And then over to this. This was one of the big events of the day. That wonderful blue and white jar, Ming jar. We talked about it quite a bit a few weeks ago. It brought more than I thought it would. I thought it would bring 15 or 20,000, I think, or something like that. It ended up going for 60,000 plus the buyer's premium. So around what's that, about $75,000 or so for this jar, I guess is what it comes out to. But it was a wonderful piece of porcelain in a very unusual design. I think that's what drove it, because it wasn't especially early Ming. It wasn't imperial. It wasn't made in the 13th or the 14th century. This was made probably in the middle 16th century, somewhere in there. But very atypical. Lots of Taoist and Buddhist symbols floating around it, and so forth. And you have this crouching Fu lion, which I think is very cool looking. And there were several of them on here too. There's another one. There it is on this one, on this side. And there was a lot of interest, obviously. I think over on LiveAuctioneers, there were something like 50 or 60 watchers on it. They got very excited. The estimate was just $800 to $1,200. And like I said, it ended up going for about $75,000 with the buyer's premium. Very, very attractive piece. And the other jar also did very well. This was estimated at $8 to $12, and it ended up going for about $11,000. Now, this one didn't have the decorative impact of the other one. This is the difference. This is vines and leaves and so forth. but still a very, very nice looking jar, about 11 inches tall, nicely potted, nicely splayed foot at the bottom, very good drawing, very loosely drawn, as a lot of these Ming pieces in blue and white are. You'll see lots of variations in cobalt colors because they weren't typically done with the high-end imported cobalt that they used in the imperial wares. They would use locally sourced or less quality cobalt, so they did the best they could with it, and they did a good job. So that's great. And then there was this Mei Ping vase. Again, Ming, very, very attractive. Had that sort of reverse decoration where they put the cobalt down to turn the body blue, and then the white areas are the white glaze underneath being revealed where the cobalt was not applied. And they used it. Sometimes they use like a wax resist techniques to keep the cobalt off of the decoration. And then when it all cooks away, you end up with white flowers coming through the blue cobalt. And that was a technique they actually invented early on in porcelain making. They started doing this on the Yuan Dynasty plates. If you have John Carswell's book on blue and white, if you don't have it, get it, because he was at Sotheby's for years in London. He was the head of the Islamic department, but he was a real ceramics blue and white hound, and knew a lot about stuff. He was a very nice man. I did some business with him back in the 80s, and that's where I first met him. And he was very nice, and he was a true fan. And he wrote a book called Blue and White. And he goes through the history of blue and white in great detail, and the innovations that were created during the Yuan Dynasty when they first had access to cobalt, really good cobalt decorating on porcelain, and then the techniques they devised and how it went on from there. So if you don't have his book, get it. It's not expensive. I think you can pick it up on Amazon probably for $20 these days, or buy it used at ABE Books. Worth getting. It's worth getting. It's very educational, and his enthusiasm for the stuff comes through. But at any rate, this was a very nice Mei Ping. I like this a lot, and I like the lotus flowers. I like the scrolls, and so forth. And in the end, it did great. It brought about $26,000 with the premium, 20,000 plus, so 25,000, $25,500 for it. It was only estimated at 400 to 600, which of course was very low. But again, nobody cares. Nobody cares about estimates. They just don't. All right, and then over to this. Now, this had been in their previous sale, and it didn't get paid for whatever reason, and they put it back up. And this is one of these transitional period or Shunji period Fu line plates, or this one has a quillin on it, and it's not a Fu line, it's a quillin. And but the cobalt decoration on it's very, very nice, and it ended up going for the about the same price it sold for last time, $3,700 plus the premium. These are they always do well. It's a very, very recognizable style that was done. It's got a mark on the back and all that stuff. They typically are nicely potted. Sometimes they got a little warp in the rim when you look at them from the side. Not unusual. They were made in the mid 17th century, roughly. And very, very nice quality. Oops, we got a frozen screen there. And let's go back. There we go. And $3,700 with a $200 to $300 estimate. And they know, and see, this is the thing. They know it brought, they're relisting it. And last time it brought 3,000 or 4,000. And a lot of auction houses at this point would put this back up with an estimate of 2,000 to 3,000. And Sikes doesn't do that. They go, no, we're still going to put it up at 200 to 300 and let the buyers know that, one, there's not much there's no reserve on it, and two, they'll get it there, and the market seeks its own level, as they say. Anyway, and then this was also in the previous sale and didn't get paid for. And I think, and maybe in this case, the buyer got nervous that he had never seen it before or seen one like it before and got cold feet, because it was a very good thing. And I think it brought about the same, or maybe even a little more than it brought last time. It brought around this price. I remember that. The Vietnamese Annamese market blue and white elephant with the spout. This is an absolutely charming thing, and it's a pretty good sized pot too. It's a ewer. I think it's about 9 inches long. It's pretty good size. Very unusual form. Very, very interesting piece of porcelain, and beautifully done. And in the end, it ended up going for about 2.5. What's that come out to? About just around $9,000 plus or minus a little bit for the pot. But a beautiful, beautiful example. All right, and that was the Sikes sale. Did great. You go through it. If you want to see the price results on LiveAuctioneers, you're not going to be able to do it. You're blocked from that. And if the folks at Caza Sikes are watching this, you should call LiveAuctioneers, because that hurts your company. Not being able to look at past auction results hurts you as an auction house, no matter what auction house you are, because people who are looking for an auction house in their area want to see how they've done in the past, and now you can't. And LiveAuctioneers, I often would send people to LiveAuctioneers to, when I recommend auction houses, they check their past auction results, see how they do with things like yours. It's a very important aspect for these auction houses to be able to share their results with the public who are browsing on LiveAuctioneers, who will be probably bidding through LiveAuctioneers. So I hope that it gets resolved. But if you run an auction house, or the Caza Sikes people, call up LiveAuctioneers and say what the heck's going on, because people can no longer see past auction results. I'm just saying. All right. I don't care about estimates. I want past results. Now, this week, I'm driving down. On Monday, I'm going to Cape Cod. I'm going down to Eldred's. I've mentioned it in the past. Monday, we're going down. We're going to do a video there, a preview of the Bill Stroll collection. And there's another collection that's also being sold here. Very good China trade stuff. We talked about it in the past. I may have talked about it too much, because I like Bill. He was a friend. I knew him for about 30 years. And he passed away last year. He was a retired physician, very, very nice man. He was a phenomenal collector. He was a regular donor. He's a donor to the Peabody Museum now. He left some of his collection to them, and things that were duplicates of things that they already had in the collection are being auctioned at Eldred's. And the Peabody has so much stuff. It's unfathomable how much material they have. And Bill would know how much they had that was like what he had, because he volunteered there one day a week for decades. On I think it was Fridays, Bill always went over there, and he was a big supporter of the museum. And now Eldred is going to be handling his things. And these are just some of the things. These wonderful China trade, circa 1800 gouaches of these courtyard scenes. Beautifully done. Here's one of a veranda. This fantastic, living area for somebody who did very well in the world. And estimate 1,500 to 2,500. They'll do fine. They're very, very nice. And the nodding figures. There's all kinds of great China trade stuff. This is just going to run through a few of them. The nice big pair of nodders here. These are over a foot tall, right? 12 to 12 and a half inches in height. And there's several pairs of nodders in here. You've got some occupational stuff in here. This one was attributed to Pu Qua, the well-known Hong painter, of a man slicing fruit. In this case, he's slicing watermelon. Beautiful, nicely, very tastefully framed, because Bill just loved this kind of stuff. This was a big charger that was in his house. This is a 20-inch Wan Li charger with spectacular quality cobalt in it. And it's early Wan Li, because you know that by looking at the back of it. It's nice and clean. There's not a lot of kiln grit on it. It's a beautiful example, good dark cobalt, and it's enormous, 20 inches in diameter. And it should do pretty well, I suspect. And there's other things. And then this, I'm dying to look at this. This is a Japanese pottery figure of a Komainu, a guardian lion, temple lion. You see these on the sides of doors going into houses, and old Japanese paintings, rather. It measures over 16 inches tall. It's a pretty big piece of pottery. I absolutely love this thing. And he bought this. Oh, it's interesting. We mentioned John McGinnis as well. He bought it at a John McGinnis sale in Massachusetts some years ago. From John. John handles good stuff. He's just got stuck with that stone piece, and I hope he gets it out of there. But anyway, and it's been in Bill Stroll's collection ever since. But anyway, it's a heck of a thing. Very, very attractive. And the estimates, $500 to $1,000. It'll go probably well over that. Anyway, so we're going down there on Monday, and we're going to do a videotaping, and we'll do a preview, and we're going to be doing more and more of these. I'm hoping if you're an auction house and you're in the area, and you have something that we like, I hope you don't mind if we come by and maybe do a video preview on site, just for the fun of it. People like to go to previews. Previews are fun. Auction previews are great fun. So there we are. All right. So anyway, we'll be back next week with that, and we'll tell you what we saw down on Cape Cod after we have our little trip. It's about a 2.5 hour drive from here, I guess, 2 hours or so. It's a couple hours down. Not too bad. And then we'll come back and get it up for you online by probably within a day. I'm hoping to. All right, so that's that. And that's it for the week. All right. Don't forget, we put a new article every week on the newsletter page over on bidamount.com. I know a number of you have been going over there. If you haven't used it in a while, it's because we discontinued covering the eBay auctions. auctions because eBay, frankly, doesn't have stuff worth buying anymore. There's a few fixed price sellers on there, and you all know who they are. You can go buy from them anytime, or just go to their website and buy from them. But the auction market over there is pretty much kaput as far as Chinese antiques go, as far as I'm concerned. There's nothing. It's just a graveyard, and it's really sad that eBay allowed this to happen. They were warned for years, and it happened, and so we stopped covering their sales completely. We just gave up. There was no way of doing it. Wasn't worth it. And when auction houses or platforms like that go the direction they go, there's no point in sticking around till somebody turns the lights out. But that's what we're doing. But we do find some pretty interesting articles up there about Chinese porcelain, Japanese works of art. We've had Korean articles up there. We search out the web for them. We copy them down. We give the credit to the author if it's somebody that we can credit the article to. We find great illustrations and so forth. And once a week we update it. We put a new story up there. It doesn't take long to read, and it's usually, we think they're pretty informative. And you can subscribe over there. You can join the newsletter list for free. Just throw your email address in. We don't even need your name if you don't want to give it. And every week when we update the page, you'll get a little notice within 5 minutes of the page being updated and reposted. So there you are. All right. Thanks for watching. Join us on Patreon if you've been thinking about it. We did a video over this week on some other auctions that are going on. And that's it. Give us a thumbs up. Leave a comment, all that good stuff. And we'll see you next week. And thank you very, very much for watching. Enjoy the summer. All right. We'll see you in a few days. Bye-bye.